Are you having trouble upgrading or migrating your Angular apps to the latest versions? Well, if you are, then you are at the right place, because in this video, I'm going to show you tried and tested step-by-step process which you can use to make your life really easy and smooth while you're upgrading your Angular app. Now, this process I have followed for my clients and for my own projects as well, and this has worked really well for the most part. So I have collected all of this experience in my own version of an Angular version upgrade checklist, as you can see here. And now this checklist takes in an initial version. So you can give an initial version here. Like, for example, my initial version is 13. And then 2 version is the target version which you want to reach. So I want to reach the Angular version 20, which is the latest. And when I click on generate checklist, I can get a checklist generated for each of the version upgrades that is required here. So you can say Angular 14 to 15, Angular 15 to 16. So this you can print out, and this you can use wherever you want to document the whole process. Is going to make your life really easy. I'm not only going to show you this checklist, explain the steps, but I'm also going to apply this checklist in this video to my own project so that you can see how it works and how well it works. So I'm going to do this on an Angular full stack chat application which I built using Firestore Firebase. The application looks something like this. So as you can see, we have a nice looking interface. It looks like WhatsApp. It's modeled after WhatsApp. And now this has user authentication features, this has sign up features, this has Firestore communication using chat here. So you can see that we have a users list here. You can see that we have 2 users we're talking with. This user is Zoeb, logged in this browser, and for session purposes, I'm using another browser, Firefox, and logged in with Hina. So now you can communicate between the two. So let me show you that. So I want to send a message to Zoeb. I'll say, okay, hello, and Zoeb should receive this message here. And say, what's up? And Hina is going to get a message here. And then you can also see your other messages from other users. So it's a pretty functional application with just basic chat features, but it's a good example to showcase how to actually upgrade your Angular app to the latest version. And I'm not only going to stop at upgrading the Angular app. So if I show you the code here, the final code, you can see that we're also refactoring this or migrating this to use the latest Signal APIs and use all of the latest standalone components, the inject function, and all of the other modern Angular syntax. So that should be really interesting. And to make it easier for you, I have packaged all of this information into a comprehensive bundle called the Angular Upgrade Bundle, which I have released on my shop. You can find the link in the description if you want to get it. So that includes the Angular version upgrade checklist here. It's an HTML app. You can give the initial and the 2 version, as I said, and you can generate checklists for your team, for yourself. You can print it out and use this checklist to follow along the upgrade process. Or you can also just use the checkboxes here as well in the HTML app. And then you also have bundled a migration guide, which I'm going to follow in the next video, where I'll be converting all of the old APIs into the new APIs, the modern Angular syntax, including standalone, control flow syntax, inject function, and the signal APIs. This is also included, and it also has a helpful section about all of the changes that the major Angular versions have brought about. And of course, it also includes the whole chat application itself, both before the migration and also after the migration, containing all of the latest Signal-based code here, so that if you want to follow along the upgrade process yourself, or you want to see the before and after yourself, you're most welcome to try it out yourself as well. So all of that is part of the Angular upgrade bundle, and you can get that right now with the link in the description. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing we want to do is I have put in the checklist here as a guide right beside my code so that I can follow it dot to dot. So I have set the initial version to 13 because, well, if you go in package.json, you can see that it is Angular Core 13.3. And then the 2 version I want to reach, the Angular 20 version, which is the latest version. So I'm going to do generate checklist here, enter generated checklist for all of the stuff. Okay. But the first thing we need to follow is Angular 13 to 14 upgrade. All right. So the first thing is update node.js to the latest version. So this is only required once. So if you don't have the latest node.js, you are most welcome to download it by using this link here. You can say Node.js download, and you can get the LTS version here. Okay, a Windows installer and all of the other installers are available here. So you can get it from here to install the latest version, because for the latest versions, you might need Node. In my case, I already have that. So if I do node-v, you can see I have 22 here. All right. So this is done. Right. Let's move on to the next one, which is ng update Angular Core at 14. And so we're going to do ng update in my workspace at Angular Core at 14 and Angular CLI at 14. Okay, let's see what it does. So while it's installing it, let me discuss why we actually do it version by version. Well, first of all, it's recommended by Angular. And why is it recommended by Angular? Because this gives Angular the chance, the CLI, the chance to actually apply some automatic migration scripts to your code. So if you don't do it one by one, it's going to miss out on those migration scripts and it's going to be really difficult. The second thing is that once you do this one by one, you commit to your GitHub repository or your Git repo as each step. So this really helps you if, for example, you get an issue at one step, you can always revert back quickly and you can get back to a working state of your Angular application. Really useful for medium to large apps because it's really important that they remain stable. Okay, so now it's upgrading from Angular 13 to Angular 14 here. CLI, compiler CLI, animations, and all of those stuff here. It's installing the packages. Okay, so it is applying some automatic migrations. You can see that it's executing migrations, which is really important to run when we actually migrate from one version to another. Okay, so it has also updated some things, and that is because in Angular 14, typed forms were introduced. So if we go in our code here, you're going to see in your code here, in your changes, you're going to see that all of our form controls or form controls were converted to untyped form controls. So that was the previous version, because previously there were only untyped form controls. So now there will be typed form controls. So to make it backwards compatible, the migration automatically converted all of your form controls to untyped so that the app works immediately, and then you can refactor it later on when you need to. Okay, so this migration is complete and we did not get any compatibility issues on any of the third-party dependencies. So that's good. And we can tick mark this, and it says if compatibility issues, then note the third-party packages. So we did not get any compatibility issues in installation. So we are just gonna mark this tick as well. Okay, so let's commit the changes to repo because that's really important. Otherwise, Angular does not allow us to run other migration commands before doing that. Okay, so let's push all of this, and let's say that we push this and we're gonna call this Angular 14, right? Migrating to Angular 14. Great. So we have committed this. Now we can follow the next thing, run ng update Angular material 14. So we can do ng update Angular material 14. Now I'm using Angular material, so I have added this statement, but you can simply also add your own component library or update statement for your own component library. You might have used PrimeNG, you might have used Kendo UI, whatever you're using, you need to use the update statement required for that component library because it's really important that you keep updating it according to the Angular version that you have. Okay, so yeah, the packages have been successfully installed and it's now executing migrations of Angular CDK. Migration completed. Executing migrations of Angular material. Migration completed. And so we have successfully migrated Angular material to Angular material 14 as well. Okay, now, so just to be sure now, in case your app is using some very advanced Angular APIs and they are deprecated for some reason, you can go to HTTPS Angular Dev, the official update guide, and then you can put in your version here. So in this case, we are going from 13 to 14, and you can now see that a lot of the things we have followed already, but here you can see that it has some other steps as well, which is said that you can manually check if they are in your app. If you're using it, it's worthwhile to check it out once. So I'm not using any of them, so I basically did not need any of them. All right, so I'm just gonna check mark this, but it's just here for completeness purposes. Okay, and the last thing is we update the versions for incompatible third-party packages. So as it turns out, for this version change, we did not have any incompatible third-party packages. So I'm just gonna tick mark this all. And then it says run the test. Now I don't have any tests here, so I'm just gonna do the last one, which is run the app using ngserve open. And I'm gonna do ngserve open here. It has compiled this successfully, and you can go to the chat app here that I have open here. You can refresh this, and you can see that it runs fine. It's logged in with Zoeb, and you can see if the functionality is fine as well. So this is working. This is working. You can send a message. This works fine. Okay, and you can go in the profile page, you can log out here, and then you can log in here again. So everything seems to be working fine here. All right, so it is working fine, and we can now mark it in the checklist here again. So let's go in the checklist here, and I can mark fix any errors in the terminal, verify the functionality, visual look and feel seems to be great. And now we can commit our changes to the repo here. So we want to commit our changes now, and let's call this material 14. Okay, great. Okay, so this checklist is done. Test pass, not applicable. Is the app functional? Is the app looking good? Yes. If there are any additional notes that you want to note here, you can note here. Otherwise, we move on to Angular 14 to 15 upgrade. Okay, so what we just saw here was the best case scenario while you are migrating from one version to another in Angular. So it's usually not that smooth. So let's see whether it remains as smooth or it becomes a bit bumpy along the way. So for Angular 14 and 15, we're going to do the same thing. So let me just clear out this here, and we don't need to upgrade Node.js. We need to update ng update at Angular core at 15 and Angular core at Angular CLI at 15. And let's see what it does. Okay, so now we see something different than the usual. So it says that package Angular Fire has an incompatible peer dependency to Angular Common. So it requires Angular 12 and 13, but it would install Angular 15 here. Okay, so this is actually the most annoying thing or the most problematic thing that you can get during an upgrade process is that you have incompatible peer dependencies. So what we're going to do is that we are going to tick mark this here, and it says in the next step, if compatibility issues, note that the third-party packages in the section below. All right, so currently we have some compatibility issues. So what we're going to say is that we are going to note Angular Fire here in our packages list here. This is an incompatible third-party package while migrating from 14 to 15. Okay, and then we're going to run the same thing with force or with legacy peer deps. So we're going to run the same thing with force for the time being, noting that we want to upgrade this to the latest version Angular Fire eventually, but we are going to let it slide for now so that we can upgrade Angular to 15 first. Okay, so now it's upgrading to the latest Angular 15 version, as you can see. Okay, now you can see why it is advised to keep your external dependencies to a minimum in your Angular project or in any project really. And that is because the more the external dependencies or third-party dependencies you have in your package or JSON, the more painful the upgrade process is going to become, and it will just take one external dependency which is not compatible to actually have a faulty installation while you are installing it using npm. Okay. Also, a helpful tip is to use actively maintained third-party dependencies. Check if the updates to the dependencies are, at most a few months ago, the latest commits to that dependency. So we don't want to use very old dependencies because they are very less likely to be updated in the future. Also, if you don't have any compatible versions for your third-party dependency, you are not able to find it, you're going to see that process soon. But if you don't find it, then you'll need to switch to another package that is compatible with the latest Angular version. And that is also a problem for a lot of apps, because that means that we need to think about functionality and we need to change things, functionality, change the code in our apps. So it can get really messy. So best is to use actively maintained, community driven, or the official third-party dependencies for the most part. Okay, so you can see here that our Angular 15 migration is completed here, and it has made some changes here, removed some options from angular.json and a lot of things. So what we're going to do is we are then going to do the next part, and that is commit the changes to repo here. And let's call this Angular 15 here. Okay, let's commit this, and then we're going to run the Angular material 15 thing. Okay, and let's do ng update at Angular material at 15, and let's see what things it brings us. Okay, so now it's executing migrations of package Angular CDK and Angular material. So it has changed some things in app.module, and you can see that it is using mat legacy button module and named them as the old module. So this is something which it does in Angular 15, and we're going to go through that in a bit. But first, let's do the last missing piece, and that is to go to the Angular dev update guide. And if we go to the update guide and we go to 14 to 15, we can see that there are this. You can follow these things one by one. If you're using any of these things, make sure to refactor them as it is. Okay, so this thing we really need to watch out for in Angular Material 15. Many of the components have been refactored to be based on the official material design components. However, this change affected the DOM and CSS classes. So we need to visually review the application and its interactions to ensure everything is working as it should. And we're going to know that when we go on to testing it. So it's fine at this point. All right. So let's go back to the checklist and let's take this for the time being. And now let's go to this update the versions for the incompatible third-party packages. All right. So we have Angular Fire as an incompatible version. So if we don't have a compatible Angular Fire version, because Angular Fire is really important for the function of our app, we interact with Firebase using this. So if we don't get a compatible one, our app might not function correctly. So this is the core third-party dependencies that we need to address the compatibility issues. So let's go and find out a compatible version for this so that we can update it right now. So let's go to Angular Fire here. And we're going to go to the releases page of Angular Fire, okay? In the GitHub repository, we are going to go in the releases and we can find a release here. We can say I want a 15 release here. So we have a release 7.5.0, which was compatible with NG15. So let's go back to our app here. And in our app here, we can do, for Angular Fire, we can do, instead of 7.3, we can do 7.5 here, okay? And let's save this. And let's npm I again and see whether we have the compatibility issues now or not. Now you can also, if there is a schematic for your third-party package, you can also run that to run the migrations for that package as well. But in this case, the Angular Fire just has a normal, the syntax is basically the same for everything. It just has a version change, okay? So you can see that there is no compatibility, peer compatibility dependency issue here. So that means that we have resolved that issue and we have a compatible version of Angular Fire now. So let's then move on to the next step, which is, so we have updated the versions for the incompatible third-party package and we have updated directly. We have done npm install. Okay, run the test. We don't have any tests. Run the app. Okay, so let's run the app now and see how it works. So we're going to do ng-serve open here like this. Okay, so you can now see that we have some major visual layout issues. You can see the input fields are not appearing here fine. And if you go in the sign up, it's not working fine. If we go log out, if we go in the sign up page, you can see the fields are not appearing fine. The buttons are not appearing fine. So all of the components seem to be all messed up. Okay, and then we have, if we log in, we're not even able to log in because we can't really see this. Okay, so there are lots of issues here. Let's fix these. Okay, so the first issue is that our components are not really appearing fine here. So you can see, so if we go our chat application, you can see that our components are not rendering. So that means that it's not even recognizing the material components for some reason. So if we go to the app.module and see what changes there are, now the reason why it's giving issue in Angular 15 is because, as I showed you in this Angular, the upgrade guide as well, that in Angular Material 15, many of the components have been refactored to be based on the material design components, okay? And I also mentioned in my migration guide here at the end here that there was a big refactor of Angular Material components because of the merge between the MDC components and the previously matte components, okay? So this results in a lot of visual artifacts because it changed sort of the internal CSS structure, the internal component structure of a lot of different components. And for that, they actually created a matte legacy components for each of the components, but they later deprecated it, all right? So this migration actually switched to using the matte legacy as matte button module. But what we need to do is we need to switch back to using the original material components instead of the legacy components so that we can see what visual changes there are and we refactor those visual changes according to what we want to, okay? So what we're going to do is we are just going to remove all of these from here and I'm just going to, in this list module as well, this module as well. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to just import all of these here like this. Import matte button module, matte form field module, and AI has helped me a lot here. So I have imported all of the original modules here like this. Okay, so let's do ng-serve open again and let's see what the latest components actually do. We don't actually need to matte legacy menu as well. We are going to use the latest menu module as well. Okay, so let's import that here. Okay, let's import this and let's save this again. And now you can see that we have at least our components are rendering fine, even though they're not appearing as they were before. At least they're working fine. And let's log in and see how this works. So if you're going to log in here, we can see that things are looking better, definitely, but the list is not right here. So this list appears to be fine. This is all messed up here, you can see. So these are the sort of visual layout issues that you will be getting. Expect to get these issues when you change from 14 to 15 because that was a major change. But after that, hopefully, you will not get a lot of visual inconsistencies in Angular material changes, all right? Okay. So let's log out and let's fix these things one by one. So the first thing we have already fixed, we have changed from legacy to that, to the original ones. Then we're going to change these fields to be basically outline fields, okay? So how to change these to outline fields? We are going to change these to outline fields by using a provider here like this. So we're going to do provide matte form field default options, okay? And we are going to do use value appearance outline here like this. Okay, let's save this and let's see whether it works. And you can see here now that we have a more outlined style of all of the fields that we needed here. Okay, so this looks better, definitely. And let's go in our app here like this now and see inside whether it works fine. Okay, so yeah, so this also looks better. Okay, so now next we need to fix this profile button here. Okay, so let's go in our profile button here and let's fix these things. So this is in your app.component, I think. In your app.component.html, you have this image and you have this button. So inside of this button, we actually want to create another div here, and let's call this user info. And this user info is going to be in your styles. It's going to be, now I wish there was tailwind here, but I don't have I didn't put tailwind at that point. So I just want to add user info here and I want to make it flex. All right, great. Let's save this. And now you can see that it is in a straight line. Okay, so this fixed that issue. You can also give a sort of a gap between them. So let's say a gap of 2 pixels would be great. Just a bit gap, just a bit of gap. All right, so this looks nice. Now let's move on to this list here. Okay, so for this list, it's a bit tricky because we have to change some things here. So let us go to the home component here, and we have your mat divider and mat list option here. So what we want to do here is that matlist avatar is too big here. So what we have is that we probably have another, this called matlist item avatar directive here. Okay, so let's try this out and see whether it appears fine. So now you can see at least the avatar appears fine, but we do have the title and the text issues here. And also we have this selector here, which we don't want. So we're going to hide this. In the mat selection list, we are going to say hide single selection indicator. It will be true. Okay, it hides this now. Great. And then we have all of this data which we want to arrange in a better way. So what we're going to do is we are going to create all of these in a line. So we're going to make this as one line, mat list item line. And then we're going to also make this mat list item line. Let's see how this looks. Okay, so it doesn't look that nice. Let's also let's also remove this one here like this, and let's make this as the title, mat list item title, and let's make this as the mat list item line, and let's see how this looks. Okay, so yeah, so we have everything here stacked on top of each other, but at least it's showing fine. Okay, so this is much better than it was before. So I think it's enough for now, and we can go on and continue our upgrade process because the visual look and feel is pretty good at this point. We don't need to make any more changes. All right, great. So yeah, so let's push this and we are run the app, fix any errors, verify the functionality and verify the visual look and feel. And now we need to commit to our changes here. So let's commit this and let's call this material 15 plus visual fixes plus Angular Fire upgrade. Okay, so we have committed this. Great. So our app has now reached Angular version 15 and our app is functionally and visually looking good. Okay, so after this, from going from 15, it will be a bit more smooth sailing for you because there are not many issues if you're using Angular material specifically, because there were no major changes. So from 15 to 16 it was pretty smooth, and then from 16 to 17 also it was pretty smooth. Maybe there was some an Angular Fire upgrade. I'm not going to cover that again because you know the process behind it. Now let's do for Angular 17 to 18 because there was something extra here, and I have actually converted it to the Angular version to Angular 18, but the Angular material version is left here. As you can see, it's on 17. So let's update the Angular material version here. So I'm just gonna tick mark things here, and there was a compatibility issue here, and that was Angular Fire again. So I'm just gonna note it down here, and I've already committed, and then I'm gonna do Angular material at 18. All right. Let's see how this goes. So it's installing the packages for Angular material to 18. Okay, it's executing the migrations of package Angular CDK and Angular material, and we're done. Okay, so let's tick mark this and let's go to the next step, which is Angular data update guide. So we're going to go to the update guide and we're going to do 17 to 18. Yeah, so I think we have updated a lot of different things. So I think, yeah, we don't need to do anything here except for the node upgrade. So let's go back to this and let's tick mark this. And then we have the versions for incompatible third-party packages. All right. So let us go and upgrade the Angular Fire version here. So we have Angular Fire. Let's check for 18 here. And if you go down here, you're going to see 19 RC1, And you can see, yes, support Angular 18 peers by this. So this is 18.0.0. So let's just make it 18.0.0 here. So this is the compatible version for that. All right, let's do npm I and check whether it works. Okay, so there is some issue, another issue here, and that is with RxJS 7.5.7. It says that Angular Fire requires something else. Yeah, so Angular Fire has 7.8.0. Okay, so this is another incompatible peer dependency coming from that. So we're also going to note this here. So we're going to say RxJS is also another one. So it says here that it needs 7.8. So we're just going to switch this to 7.8. And sometimes these issues can get really mixed up, muddled up, because there are dependencies of different third-party dependencies to other peer dependencies, and so it all gets mixed up sometimes. So this is definitely some place where it can get quite complex if you have a lot of third-party dependencies. So hence we don't want to actually add a lot of third-party dependencies, right? Okay, so RxJS is fine here, and once we do this, then we can do npm I again. Great. So you can see no more compatibility issues. So that means that we are done with our upgrading dependencies here. So we are just going to check mark all of these. Running the test is fine. Let's try and run the app now and see whether it's fine. Okay, apparently we have lots of errors in the terminal. And why are those? They are basically of Angular not finding the mat icon or any of the material icons, any of the material components here. And why is that? Now, if you go to the app.module here, you're going to see here that we have some Firebase providers here, which we actually put in the imports here. And this should be actually part of the provider. So let's just copy them and let's add them to the providers list here. Okay. And let's save them. I'm not sure why they were here, but you can see once we do this, you can see our app is running again here. Okay. Great. So let's try this. Try the app again and let's do it full screen and let's try this app. Let's also see the sign up page here. This looks great. This is at gmail.com and let's log in. And you can now see we have the users, we have our chat here. The chat is working. Yep. And the profile page is fine. Great. It's saving. Yep. Data has been updated. Great. So our app is working fine for version 18 here. Okay. So run the app, fix any errors in the terminal. So you can get these small errors and you need to fix these according to what you see. Now, the more complex the app, the more weird errors you might get, but you need to persist. And that is why going from one version to another is best, because in case you get an issue which you cannot resolve, you can always roll back for the time being and live to fight another day. Okay. All right. So our app is now upgraded to Angular 18. We just need to verify the functionality and we need to commit the changes to our repo here. Okay. So let's commit the changes and let's call this material 18 plus Angular Fire plus RxJS. Okay. So that's fine. Okay. So for Angular 19, it was pretty smooth apart from the Angular Fire upgrade that I needed to make to Angular version 19. So I skipped that part so that I don't repeat myself on this video. But there was one thing that happened, and that was the standalone migration. And so in Angular version 19, basically standalone components becomes the default if you have not specified the components. In our case, because all of our components are not standalone, all of our components were marked standalone false by default here because they were non-standalone. Okay, so this is one migration that happened automatically, and that is why these migrations are really important going from one version to another. Otherwise, it can result in a lot of headaches. All right, so from 19, then we want to go to Angular 20. So for Angular 20 again, we're going to skip this 19 one. We're going to go to Angular 20. So we're going to do ng update at Angular core 20, Angular CLI 20. And I want to show you this because I want to show you a very big migration that happened here, automatic migration, and that is the migration of the control flow syntax to the latest one, because ng for and ng if were deprecated in this latest version. Okay, so you can see that it has installed the packages and now it's saying that, okay, you can use the application builder to the new build system. So yeah, we are going to migrate to the new build system. And now you can see there's executing migrations of package Angular core, this usages. And this is the great thing about Angular. I love that is everything is backwards compatible. At least most of the things are backwards compatible. So you don't have to do a lot to actually get things working in the recent versions. Okay, so we have the control flow migration that you would like to run. So it converts the entire application to block control flow syntax, which you want to do, obviously. So let's select this and it converts the entire application to that. Okay. And it has just like that converted our application to use a new control flow syntax. And if you go in your, for example, home component here, you can see now that you have this nice for loop here, analyze if here, and there are no directives ng if and ng for directives anywhere. All right. So this migration is completed. Now let's try this out. And first, let's push this. And there are no compatibility issues. So we're going to commit the changes to call it Angular 20. And we're going to commit this. And then we are going to do ng update Angular material. Ng update Angular material here. So we're going to do ng update at Angular material at 20. This is executing migrations of package Angular material 20. Okay, so it's done. So now let's try this out and do you want to see the upgrade guide? Well, I've already seen that, so it's not really necessary. So I'm just gonna skip this. You know what to do this if you have a large application. I'm gonna just skip this. You don't have any incompatible peers at this point. You're just gonna run the app and see how it looks like. So we can do ng dev now because it's Angular version 20. And now let's see whether it works fine. Okay, yeah, so it's reloading. And you can see that we have our profile page here. Log out, we have our email address here. Okay, logged in. And go to Zen, we can see here, we can send a message. Okay, the message goes there, then the message goes here. We have our drop down here. So everything seems to be fine. All right, so we are done with our upgrade here now. And we can now finally make the last commit to Angular version 20, calling it material 20 here. Okay, so with this, we are actually complete with our upgrade process from Angular version 13 to Angular version 20. About 7 versions and 7 steps, 7 checklists. But it was worth it because it was a relatively smooth process. Everything is trackable using our GitHub repository here, and we can revert back to any version that we want to if we have any stability issues or the tests are not passing or any other issue that has crept up. Okay. And you also have a documented process here with things like what packages needed updating so that you can keep it for future reference. All right. Great. So lastly, I'm not going to show it here, but I also upgraded the hot toast library here at the end because is giving some issues and it has basically updated to the latest versions. The owner, the maintainer has also changed, so it has become ng expert here. So I updated it to the latest one. And if I show you the latest one here, so this is basically the latest one here is ng expert hot toast here. All right. So I've used it and I had to refactor the app to actually use it in everywhere. So, but this wasn't a very critical part of the application. So I could do it at the very end when I reached the target version. All right. So all of the other things like time ago pipe or other third-party libraries, which weren't that critical for your functioning of the app, and you could delay their installation to the latest versions. You can do this at the end when you have reached the target version at the end like this. Okay. So we have our Angular 20 app working here right now. And in the next video, we are going to go one step further. In fact, a lot of steps further, and we are going to migrate our app to using the new standalone components, the control flow syntax, the modern inject functions for DI, signal APIs, and we are also going to manually convert the code, the rest of the code, the RxJS based code to using the new latest signal APIs like the streaming resource and other signal APIs so that our code base can become really modern, and that's going to be really interesting. So I'll see you in the next video for that. Now again, a reminder that the Angular upgrade bundle is available on the link in the description. So if you or your team in your company require some guidance about how to upgrade your Angular app to the latest versions and you are having some issues, you can follow this, you can get this guide and you can follow this guide. It's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of hours in debugging or fixing issues later. So thanks for watching and I hope you liked this and you make use of the Angular upgrade bundle. I'll see you next time with the migration video.